The night before the study abroad application deadline, the class group chat blew up. "Oh my God, Ryan, why did you switch your application to the UK? Weren't you supposed to go to France with Emma Bennett?" Ryan Hawthorne replied like it was nothing. "Yeah, I changed it. She has my login anyway. Once she sees it, she'll switch too. She always follows me around. She can't function without me." I stood there with my phone in my hand, my mind going completely blank. Scattered across the floor, half tucked between my open suitcases, was the gift I had prepared especially for Ryan. I left the group chat, threw the gift away, and never opened the application portal again. What he did not know was this. He could give up the future we were supposed to share for Sophie Quinn. And I could give him up too. I could choose my own future without ever looking back. All those late nights, all those years of work, had never been only for him. The night before the study abroad application deadline, the class group chat blew up. "Oh my God, Ryan, why did you switch your application to the UK? Weren't you supposed to go to France with Emma Bennett?" Ryan Hawthorne replied like it was nothing. "Yeah, I changed it. She has my login anyway. Once she sees it, she'll switch too. She always follows me around. She can't function without me." I stood there with my phone in my hand, my mind going completely blank. Scattered across the floor, half tucked between my open suitcases, was the gift I had prepared especially for Ryan. I left the group chat, threw the gift away, and never opened the application portal again. What he did not know was this. He could give up the future we were supposed to share for Sophie Quinn. And I could give him up too. I could choose my own future without ever looking back. All those late nights, all those years of work, had never been only for him. Ryan's words cut straight through me. The school in France was one we had chosen together after 12 years of working toward it. And now, just like that, he had changed his mind. He had not even bothered to tell me himself. Someone in the group chat asked him, "What if Emma doesn't see it? The deadline is midnight tomorrow." Ryan gave a short, mocking laugh. "She's been checking the portal every 10 minutes since applications opened. She's more obsessed with it than my mom. There's no way she won't see it. Whatever. You guys wouldn't understand." The others immediately started hyping him up, calling him bold and acting as if he had done something impressive. Then someone else asked, "But what if Emma doesn't switch? Isn't the school in France better for her?" Ryan went quiet for a few seconds before answering, his voice suddenly colder. "Bullshit. Emma has separation anxiety. Last time we went one day without seeing each other. She dropped everything and came looking for me. This time, if she doesn't follow me, she won't see me for 3 years. To her, I matter more than any school. She'll choose me. She definitely will." The chat went silent after that. After a long moment, someone spoke up carefully. "Ryan, isn't that kind of unfair to Emma? We all know how hard she worked for this. You should at least tell her." Ryan clicked his tongue impatiently. It took him a while to answer. "Too much trouble. I don't want to deal with it. You all know how Emma gets. If she finds out I changed it because of Sophie, she'll cry until my head explodes. Better not to say anything. Saves me the headache." The group chat came alive again. Fair enough. Emma's great and all, but compared to Sophie, she's still missing something. Ryan really does have girls wrapped around his finger. Their jokes almost crushed me. I wanted so badly to call him, lose my temper, and demand an explanation. But my finger hovered over the screen, and I could not make myself tap his name. In the end, I simply crawled into bed in a daze. I stared at the ceiling as my thoughts slowly scattered. How could someone change so completely? Back when we decided to go to France, the two of us had studied French until we broke down crying in each other's arms, but neither of us had ever thought of quitting. Every time we felt like we could not keep going, we would pull up a picture of the Eiffel Tower and tease each other, until we found the strength to continue. The day we received our offers, we laughed and cried at the same time, thinking all the suffering had finally been worth it. But now, when the future we had dreamed about was finally within reach, he had shaken me off and run toward someone else. Honestly, if he had wanted to change his plans, I would not have blamed him. But why couldn't he have told me? In his eyes, was I really that unimportant? If I was such a burden to him, then what was the promise he had made when he proposed to me so carefully that night? Had the hour been too late, the lights too dim, for him to know who was standing in front of him? I wrapped my arms tightly around myself, hid in the dark, and sobbed without holding back. The truth was, I could live without him. I did not have separation anxiety at all. Ever since we were children, whenever he and I chose different schools or different classes, he would become moody for no clear reason. He only calmed down after seeing me. So I had kept walking steadily along my own path, while bringing him with me. Ryan was right about one thing. I had always included him in the future I imagined for myself. When it did not harm my own prospects, I was willing to pay the price for loving him. But that did not mean I would keep compromising for him without limits. I closed the application form I had accidentally opened, wiped away my tears, and never opened the portal again. He had made his choice. I had made mine. From now on, we could go our separate ways and leave each other in peace. I had just finished washing my face when Ryan sent me a video call. Emma, pick up. I want to see you. When I did not answer, he sent several more video call requests in a row before finally texting me. We're at the usual place. Everyone's waiting for you. Hurry up and come over. Take a cab. But I did not want to go. I'm tired. I don't feel like going out. His reply came almost instantly. Are you sick? I'll come over. No. Don't come. I had just sent the reply with a frown when Sophie messaged me. I'm sorry. I was the one who kept clinging to Ryan and insisted on coming. I didn't know you'd be upset. I'll leave right now. As long as you're willing to come, I don't care what happens to me. For a second, the message seemed to drip with fake innocence. Before I could reply, people in the private group chat started tagging me like crazy. Emma, what the hell is your problem? You can't stand Ryan having anyone else around him? There's a limit to being petty. Throwing a tantrum just because you're jealous Sophie is prettier than you? Get help. I froze for a moment. I instinctively wanted to explain, but then I saw Ryan's message. Emma, I was the one who invited Sophie. If you're angry, take it out on me. What's the point of making things hard for her? Forget it. Come or don't. We'll have more fun without you anyway. Then they sent me several photos of the food. Someone added, dripping with sarcasm. Dinner tastes better without all that jealousy at the table. What a bunch of lunatics. I left the group chat immediately. Then I deleted Ryan, blocked him, and cut him off in one clean sweep. No matter how badly we had fought in the past, he had always been pinned at the top of my messages. But now, he only deserved to stay in the dark little corner where blocked contacts belonged. The truth was, when Sophie first transferred to our school, she had been my friend. Back then, Ryan had even warned me that Sophie did not seem like a good person, and told me not to get too close to her. I had put in a lot of effort to smooth things over between them. Then came the welcome party. Sophie took off her ugly black framed glasses and appeared in a red dress, stunning everyone. After that, Ryan never once told me to stay away from her again. He and Sophie became closer and closer. He even introduced Sophie to his childhood friends and the rest of his circle. By the time I realized what was happening, my friends had already become Sophie's friends. And the way Ryan treated Sophie was unmistakably special. That fight between Ryan and me had been so bad that it felt like my whole world had cracked open. Afterward, we went 3 months without speaking. I told him, if you like Sophie, I'll step aside. But Ryan cried. He said, you're the person I care about most. Sophie has depression, and she was raised by a single parent. I just feel bad for her, so I'm trying to help. I believed him. But Ryan had been treating me like an idiot. Their interactions only became more frequent, and just friends became the perfect excuse. Now he had even changed his application because of Sophie. It made me look like a complete fool. By the time I came back to myself, it was already dark. I had no idea when my mom had come home. She looked at me and smiled. Did you and Ryan fight again? You even blocked him. He wants you to add him back. I gave her a vague answer, then left the house. Our counselor had just asked us to return to school and confirm our applications one last time. When I arrived, there was an empty seat beside Ryan. Usually that seat was mine. But Sophie sat down in it without the slightest hesitation. Ryan did not say anything. Instead, he naturally took the bag Sophie handed him. Only his gaze flicked toward me, casual and almost expectant. He was waiting for me to cave first. Too bad he had miscalculated this time. I turned and sat beside Caleb Foster, the most popular guy in school, far away from them. Make sure you check everything carefully one last time, the counselor said from the front of the room, speaking with such urgency that he almost sounded breathless. The application portal closes tonight. Once it does, regret won't help you. Caleb suddenly glanced at my application form. What a coincidence, he said. I'm going to France too. Before I could answer, someone tapped me on the shoulder. Emma, don't you have anything to say? I ignored him and was just about to speak to Caleb when Ryan grabbed my arm and dragged me out. Emma, are you done? You got carried away throwing a tantrum, and now you've learned how to block me? I'm warning you. Unblock me right now, or don't even think about adding me back later. I was forced to look at him for a few seconds. Oh, I said. I wasn't planning to add you back later anyway. Ryan's face darkened instantly. Fine. Don't come begging me to talk to you later. I turned to leave, but he suddenly grabbed me again, his eyes unexpectedly serious. It's almost time. Check your application carefully one more time. Don't enter the wrong thing. He seemed about to say more, but Sophie came over just then and cut him off. Ryan, I don't really understand this part. Can you help me look at it? Sure. I'll check it for you now. Ryan immediately lowered his head to look over Sophie's documents. I let out a small, mocking laugh, then turned and walked away. By the time he tried to say something else, I was already almost back inside the classroom. Emma, remember to check it again. Check it carefully. Right. He really did think his words were law. He probably assumed that once he reminded me to check, I would obediently open the portal, discover that he had changed his application, and then follow him by changing mine. What a fantasy. Since he refused to say it outright, I would simply pretend I knew nothing. After all, he thought coaxing me was such a huge inconvenience. And I thought explaining anything to him was an inconvenience too. Luckily, for once, I had finally opened my eyes. When I returned to the classroom, Caleb noticed that I looked upset and insisted on taking me out to watch a performance. When the show ended, we ran into Ryan, whose face was cold and tense. He looked at Caleb, his expression dark. I knew he had misunderstood, but I had no interest in explaining. I treated him like he was nothing but air. Just as I reached the corner of the hallway, I ran into Ryan and one of his friends again. Ryan, you need to tell Emma already. If Emma goes alone, are you really going to be okay with that? Ryan gave a disdainful snort. What does what she does have to do with me? Besides, she must have changed it already. She's just throwing a fit. I can't get rid of her no matter what I do. It's exhausting. I froze for a second and happened to walk straight into them. Ryan told the other guy and Caleb to leave first. Then he turned and blocked me in the corner. You went to the music festival with someone else instead of me? Emma, you're getting bold now. You think that's enough to make me jealous? He held my hand, his voice careless and lazy. Fine. I'll apologize. I shouldn't have snapped at you that day. Can we make up now? Did you check your application? After saying that, he hesitated for a moment before adding, Did you happen to check mine too? I said nothing. The atmosphere instantly turned awkward. While we were still stuck in that stalemate, Sophie walked over. Ryan, they're all picking on me. Come help me. Then she seemed to notice me for the first time, her voice filled with surprise. Oh, Emma, you're here too? You didn't come because you saw my Instagram story, did you? Please don't misunderstand. I just like lively places, so I asked Ryan to come. I've loved this band for ages. There it was again, that syrupy little act. I had no patience for her performance. While Ryan's attention shifted, I slipped out of the corner. I was about to leave when Sophie reached out and stopped me. I'm sorry, Emma. Did I upset you by being here? I'll leave. I just hope you and Ryan won't fight because of me. He's been in a bad mood because of you these past few days, and it really hurts me to see it. As long as he's happy, I'll do anything. After saying that, she lowered her reddened eyes and moved as if she were about to bow her head to me. What are you doing? Sophie, get up. Ryan shoved me aside and pulled Sophie into his arms, his face full of concern. Emma, can you stop losing it every time you see Sophie? We're all going to spend the next 3 years together. Why do you have to be so petty? I stared at him and almost laughed. Do you honestly think the way you two act looks like normal friendship? He froze for a second, then sneered. What, so you finally can't pretend anymore? Weren't you the one who said she had it rough and asked us to take better care of her? So why are you getting jealous now? I stared at him. The face I had known for more than 10 years suddenly felt completely unfamiliar. If you love taking care of her so much, why don't you just marry her? After saying that, I turned and left, ignoring Ryan's furious shout behind me. If you walk away now, don't ever come back. I did not even look back. When I got home and sat down, I saw that Sophie had updated her Instagram stories. A group of them was playing Truth or Dare. Sophie had drawn a dare that required her to kiss anyone present. Her gaze drifted toward Ryan, but he did not move for a long time. Ryan, Sophie said softly, you're the person I know best here. Oh, come on, Sophie. How are we not close to you? Are we invisible just because Ryan's here? As the others teased and whistled, Sophie's face grew redder and redder. She kept trying to explain in a panic, so anxious that tears came to her eyes. Ryan was still sitting where he was. If Ryan doesn't want to, I'll drink as my penalty. With that, Sophie picked up the glass and squeezed her eyes shut. A hand suddenly reached out from behind her and pressed the glass back down. You're allergic to alcohol, and you're still trying to drink? Are you out of your mind? Then what am I supposed to do? Sophie said. If I don't finish the dare, I have to take the penalty. Ryan looked at her, then lifted her chin. You really couldn't choose anyone but me? No. Blushing, Sophie grabbed Ryan by the collar, rose onto her toes, and kissed him tentatively. This time, Ryan did not pull away. Instead, he slid a hand around Sophie's waist and deepened the kiss. Ryan, you absolute legend. The cheering and laughter around them grew louder and louder, while my heart felt as if it had been dropped into boiling oil, burning so badly I could barely breathe. Even though I had already told myself I no longer cared about him, seeing that scene still hurt. A relationship of more than 10 years could not be ripped out of my heart without tearing something open. At 11:50 that night, something small suddenly hit my bedroom window. A pebble. It was the secret signal Ryan and I had shared for years. For 1 second, I truly wished I could forget everything. I leaned out to look. Standing downstairs was Ryan. The same Ryan who had just been wrapped around Sophie moments ago. His voice was coaxing and unsteady. Emma, stop being mad. Be good. Change your application. The UK is great. When we get there, I'll take you to see Big Ben. When I went downstairs, I could smell alcohol on him. His words came out slow and heavy, nothing like his usual arrogant self. Honestly, wouldn't it have been nice if he had always been like this? If he had coaxed me until I became some hopeless girl in love, loving him with everything I had. Thank God he had not. Emma, the UK is great too. If you want to see the Eiffel Tower, we can go whenever you want. It's only a 5-hour flight. You've never been away from me before. You cry if you don't see me for a single day. I don't want you crying, so I'm letting you keep following me. In the version of this scene I had imagined for myself, I was supposed to slap him coldly, then turn and walk away with dignity. But right then my feet would not move. So I took a deep breath and pushed Ryan away. Stop pretending to be drunk. Panic flickered through his eyes, but he immediately acted as if he had no idea what I was talking about. Ryan, you really were such a disappointment. Even now, why were you still so cowardly and dishonest? There's no time, Emma. Let's deal with the important thing first. He grabbed my hand and tried to unlock my phone. Be good. The UK is really great. Once this is over, you can be as angry as you want. I'll listen to you from now on. I froze where I stood. So even now you still won't just tell me the truth? Is that necessary? He said. You already know anyway. I was insane. Absolutely insane for wasting even one more second on him. I shoved him hard, sending him crashing to the ground. Then I walked away while Ryan shouted desperately behind me. Emma, don't regret this. Even now he was still trying to threaten me. I turned back and held up my phone. It's 12:01. Ryan's expression was almost impressive. I went back to my room and threw myself into the dark. One last time. I would let myself fall apart one last time. I would be sad over him one last time. But just as dawn began to break, my mom pushed open my door. What happened between you two? Ryan came over first thing this morning. The morning light filtering through my bedroom blinds was thin and gray, smelling of wet asphalt and early autumn frost. My mother stood in the doorway holding a steaming mug of black tea. Her eyes carried a mixture of gentle concern and quiet, perceptive gravity. She knew Ryan almost as well as I did. For 12 years, he had been an unavoidable fixture in our lives, eating at our kitchen island, doing his calculus homework on our living room rug, kicking his muddy sneakers against our porch steps. He's sitting on the lower step, my mother said softly, setting the mug on my nightstand. He looks like he hasn't slept a minute, Emma. His coat is damp from the morning fog. Did something happen after midnight? I sat up slowly, my neck stiff, a dull ache throbbing behind my eyes. The tears from last night had dried into a tight, uncomfortable film across my skin. We broke up, Mom, I said, my voice surprisingly clear, devoid of the tremor I thought would be there. For good. My mother paused, searching my face with quiet intensity. She didn't gasp nor did she tell me I was being emotional or hasty. She simply nodded, walked over, and sat on the edge of my bed, placing a warm, solid hand over my knee. Are you sure, sweetheart? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Then you don't have to go down there, she said firmly. I'll tell him to go home. No, I replied, pulling back the duvet. I'll talk to him. If I don't lay it out flat right now, he'll convince himself this is just another round of foreplay in our arguments. I threw on an oversized charcoal sweater, pulled my hair into a loose clip, and walked downstairs. When I pulled open the heavy wooden front door, the bite of the morning air hit my cheeks. Ryan was leaning against the porch railing, his head buried in his hands. His shoulders were slouched, his hair messy. Hearing the latch click, he whipped around, scrambling to his feet with an expression of guarded relief. There was a flick of familiar, arrogant certainty in his eyes, the look of a boy who believed his predictable universe had briefly glitched, only to reboot right back on schedule. Emma, he breathed, stepping toward the doorway. You finally came down. Look. About last night. I know I was out of line. I had too much to drink at the lounge. I shouldn't have pushed you. He reached out to grab my wrist, a motion as instinctive to him as breathing. I stepped back, keeping the threshold firmly between us, my hands tucked deep into the pockets of my sweater. Ryan's hand hovered in the empty air for 2 awkward seconds before dropping to his side. His brows knit together, a flash of annoyance straining against his attempt at a coaxing smile. Come on, Em, he murmured, lowering his tone into that soft, conspiratorial whisper he always used whenever he wanted me to let something go. Don't look at me like I'm a stranger. The portal closed at midnight. It's locked in now. We don't need to keep fighting about it. I looked at him, studying the subtle fan of lines around his eyes, the familiar line of his jaw. It is locked in, Ryan. Right. He let out a breathless, relieved laugh, running a hand through his unwashed hair. I knew you'd see reason. Look, I get why you were pissed that I didn't give you a heads up before I switched my code to the UK. I should have told you straight. But you switched yours before the deadline, right? I tried checking the portal on my phone right before 12, but the server was lagging like crazy. Did your confirmation email come through? He was so utterly, breathtakingly sure of himself. In his mind, he was the sun, and I was merely a satellite tethered to his gravitational pull, incapable of drifting into deep space. I didn't switch to the UK, Ryan, I said evenly. The faint smile on his face froze. The autumn wind rustled the dry hydrangeas along the porch wall, filling the sudden, heavy silence between us. What do you mean? He asked, his voice dropping an octave, his laugh sounding brittle and hollow. Stop messing around, Emma. It's 6 in the morning. The deadline passed. You can't change it now. I know, I said. My application for the University of Paris was finalized 3 weeks ago. I reconfirmed my submission yesterday afternoon. My file was locked before dinner. Ryan stared at me. The color slowly drained from his cheeks, leaving his skin a pale, sickly gray under the porch light. You didn't change it? He whispered, as if trying out words from a language he had never heard before. Why? I told you yesterday. I explicitly told you I changed mine to London. You knew. I knew, I agreed smoothly. And I let you go. You let me go? His voice cracked, rising into an angry, incredulous bark. He took a heavy step across the threshold, his breathing instantly ragged. Emma, are you out of your mind? We were supposed to go to France together. We spent for years grinding through French grammar, crying over oral exams, planning our apartment near the 5th arrondissement. You had the picture of the Eiffel Tower on your desk since freshman year. I put that picture on my desk because I wanted to go to Paris. I corrected him, meeting his bloodshot gaze without flinching. You put it on yours because you didn't want to be left behind. Do you remember the difference, Ryan? He grabbed my shoulders, his grip tight enough to leave marks through my thick sweater. Undo it. Call the counselor. Tell them there was a technical glitch. Tell them your system glitched and submitted the wrong jurisdiction. It wasn't a glitch. I reached up, caught his wrists, and deliberately peeled his fingers off my shoulders, shoving his arms back. You made your choice to go to the UK for Sophie, Quinn. You bragged in the group chat that I was so pathetically obsessed with you that I'd throw away 12 years of my own ambition just to follow you like a stray dog. Ryan winced as if I had thrown cold water in his face. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. You told everyone I had separation anxiety. I continued, my voice deadpan and precise. You told them I couldn't function without you. But the truth is, Ryan, you were the one who couldn't handle the thought of me walking down a road where you weren't standing in front of me. And now you don't have to worry about it. You have Sophie. She'll follow you wherever you want. Emma, no. Sophie doesn't mean a damn thing to me, he shouted completely, shedding his calm, arrogant demeanor. Real tears brimmed in his eyes, spilling over his lashes. She was pathetic and needy, and I liked feeling like a savior. It was a stupid ego trip. I don't care about London. I'll cancel my UK registration. I'll defer for a year and reapply to France. The French international program doesn't accept mid-year deferrals without a documented medical emergency, I said flatly. You know that. We read the manual together in March. I stepped back into the hallway and reached for the heavy brass doorknob. Have a good trip to England, Ryan, I said softly. Don't come back to this porch. Emma. Wait. Emma. He lunged forward, throwing his palm against the door, but I clicked the deadbolt into place a fraction of a second before he could push it open. Through the thick wood, I heard the dull, heavy thud of his fists against the paneling, shouting my name into the quiet street until his voice turned raspy and weak. My mother emerged from the kitchen, handed me my tea, and pulled me into a quiet, warm embrace. I rested my forehead against her shoulder, listening to the muffled thuds outside slowly fade into the sound of footsteps retreating down the driveway. I didn't shed a single tear. The reservoir had burned completely dry during the night. For the first time in my life, the air filling my lungs felt light, cold, and entirely my own. By noon, the official school portal updated its final global registry. In our high school's international department building, a large glass display case stood near the main entrance, listing every senior's name, their confirmed university, and their destination country. The news hit the senior class like a sudden storm. Did anyone check the main lobby board? Emma's status is confirmed, Sorbonne University, Paris. Wait, what about Ryan? Didn't he post that he switched to King's College London? Holy crap. Ryan's name is locked under London and Emma's under Paris. They're actually on different continents. The class group chat, which had been dead since the midnight deadline, erupted into an avalanche of messages. Someone anonymously dropped a high-res screenshot of Ryan's messages from 2 nights prior. She's more obsessed with it than my mom. There's no way she won't see it. She'll choose me. She definitely will. Underneath the screenshot, a senior named Jason typed, "This might be the most embarrassing aging like milk moment in school history." I sat in a sunlit corner of the campus library, organizing my visa application folder, when Caleb Foster pulled out the wooden chair opposite me and slid a cold bottle of peach green tea across the table. "You're the sole topic of conversation in the senior lounge right now," Caleb said, leaning back with a faint, appreciative grin. "Half the guys are taking bets on whether Ryan is going to forfeit his London placement entirely." I didn't pause my pen. He can't. His father spent 8 months securing his corporate sponsorship for the UK track. If he drops out now, he loses his academic standing and his gap year insurance. Caleb studied me quietly for a moment. "You knew that before midnight, didn't you?" "I knew everything," I said, setting my pen down to meet his gaze. "I just chose to stop playing referee in a game I never asked to enter." "It takes incredible backbone," Caleb murmured. "Most people would have caved, just to avoid the social mess." "It wasn't about backbone," I said softly. "It was about survival. If I had followed him to London, I would have spent the next 3 years watching him prove to himself how much power he had over me." Before Caleb could respond, the heavy glass doors of the library slammed open. With a loud, ringing vibration, Ryan stood in the threshold. He looked like an absolute wreck. His uniform shirt was rumpled, his collar unbuttoned, his eyes bloodshot and encircled by dark shadows. His gaze swept wildly across the quiet reading room before locking onto my table. The librarian stood up to reprimand him, but Ryan completely ignored her, marching straight down the central aisle toward us. "Emma," he rasped, his voice rough as sandpaper. "We need to talk. Out in the hall. Now." Caleb shifted slightly in his seat, his posture tightening, but I raised a hand to signal that I had it under control. "I'm organizing my visa paperwork, Ryan," I said smoothly, keeping my voice low. "Please don't cause a disruption here." "A disruption?" Ryan let out a bitter, borderline hysterical laugh, slamming both palms down onto my oak table. Several students at nearby desks flinched and looked over. "You humiliated me, Emma. Do you have any idea what people are saying in the group chat right now? They're calling me a delusional narcissist. They're saying you tossed me out like garbage." "You humiliated yourself," I replied, looking up at him with unbothered composure. "You were the one who bragged to 20 people that I would crawl after you. You were the one who altered your application without a word to impress Sophie." At the mention of Sophie's name, Ryan's jaw twitched violently. "I didn't do it to impress her," he shouted, his self-control completely disintegrating. "She was breaking down in tears. She said her family couldn't afford the French program's tuition fees, but she had a partial grant for London. She asked me to help her navigate the application. What was I supposed to do? Just turn my back on her?" "You were supposed to be my fiancé," I said softly. The entire library went dead, suffocatingly quiet. The two words hung in the air like a heavy pendulum. Ryan froze. The wild, defensive fury in his eyes flickered, fractured, and collapsed into sheer, unadulterated terror. He had forgotten. He had gotten so thoroughly intoxicated by playing the heroic, noble savior for Sophie Quinn, so addicted to her wide-eyed, fragile reverence, that he had completely compartmentalized the silver ring sitting in his wooden desk drawer at home. The ring he had given me 6 months ago during a quiet evening by the river, promising that our futures were permanently intertwined. "Emma." Ryan's voice broke into a pathetic whisper. He reached out, his fingers trembling as he tried to touch the edge of my notebook. "Eminencia. I didn't mean." "You did mean it," I said, sweeping my visa documents into a neat stack and sliding them into my canvas tote bag. I stood up, adjusting the strap over my shoulder. "You traded 12 years of unshakable trust for a girl who makes you feel powerful for 10 minutes at a time. I hope the high was worth the crash." I turned to Caleb. "Are you ready to drop off our passport copies at the counselor's office?" "Ready when you are," Caleb said smoothly, standing up and falling into step beside me. As we walked past Ryan, he made a desperate, clumsy reach for my sweater sleeve. "Emma, please," he sobbed openly, uncaring of the dozens of students watching him. "I'll cut Sophie off right now. I'll block her on everything. I'll tell my dad I'm forfeiting the London program. I'll stay local for a year and reapply to Paris next cycle. Just don't walk away from me like this." I paused, looking down at his fingers clutching my fabric, then up into his ruined, weeping face. "Do you know why I blocked your number 2 nights ago, Ryan?" I asked softly. He swallowed hard, his chest heaving, shaking his head. "Because I realized that every time I saw your name pop up on my screen, I felt exhausted," I said. "I spent 12 years carrying your tantrums, your ego, and your emotional baggage. I thought that heavy weight was what love felt like. But it wasn't. It was just an abusive habit. I pulled my sleeve smoothly from his grip. And I'm breaking it today. The 3 weeks leading up to our flight dates moved with a swift, liberating momentum. Without Ryan in my daily life, my existence opened up like a wide, clear horizon. I no longer spent my evenings waiting for my phone to buzz, wondering if he was in a mood that required my intervention. I didn't have to smooth over his tense arguments with his father, nor did I have to listen to him complain about how tedious his French vocabulary drills were. I spent my afternoons sitting on my sunlit balcony, drinking chilled tea, reading French history, and experiencing a deep, profound sense of peace that I hadn't felt since childhood. Meanwhile, Ryan's life descended into absolute chaotic ruin. Without me handling his administrative details, his UK visa filing hit a major wall. He had missed 2 critical submission deadlines because he was accustomed to me filling out his paperwork and reminding him of dates. His parents were incandescent with rage after discovering he had abandoned his prestigious French scholarship, a scholarship they had spent years boasting about for a girl they didn't even know. Worse still, Sophie Quinn's fragile, helpless persona was rapidly eroding under the weight of reality. Now that Ryan was officially bound for London with her, she no longer had Emma Bennett to compete against. The tragic, delicate victim routine lost its sparkle. Without a rival to steal him from, Sophie's intense neediness turned directly onto Ryan. She called him 30 times a day, throwing hysterical fits whenever he didn't answer instantly. She demanded he pay for her flight upgrades, handle her dormitory deposits, and escort her everywhere she went. 10 days before departure, Caleb invited me to a small farewell dinner with a few close friends at an open-air bistro downtown. The evening was wonderful, filled with light laughter, good wine, and shared excitement about moving to Europe. Caleb was attentive, easygoing, and completely unpretentious. He didn't demand to be the center of attention, nor did he expect anyone to manage his emotional state. Around 9 o'clock, as we were leaving the restaurant, a sharp, bitter argument erupted near the entrance of the lounge across the courtyard. I told you 4 times I was dealing with my visa appeal. Ryan's furious voice echoed across the pavement. I paused near the bistro door, looking over. Ryan was standing under the streetlights, his hands shoved into his pockets, looking utterly haggard. Standing in front of him was Sophie, wearing a tight, crimson dress, tears smearing her heavy eye makeup as she screamed at him. You weren't dealing with your visa. You were looking at Emma's private blog. Again, Sophie shrieked, her voice completely stripped of its usual soft, syrupy cadence. I saw your laptop history, Ryan. You've been searching for one-way flights to Paris every single night. You don't give a damn about me. You just used me to test how much control you had over her, and now that she doesn't give a shit about you, you treat me like trash. Ryan's face was dark, his jaw clenched so tight the tendons bulged against his neck. Shut your mouth, Sophie, he spat through his teeth. Just shut the hell up. I threw away my entire future in Paris for you. I ruined my life for you. What more do you want from me? You didn't do it for me. Sophie screamed back, slamming her purse against his chest. You did it because you're a pathetic narcissist who thought Emma would follow you on her knees. You thought you could keep her as your safe little shadow while playing savior with me. But she threw you away, and now you're stuck with me. The ugly, naked truth rang out across the courtyard, exposed for every passerby to hear. Ryan stood there, paralyzed, looking as if he had been struck by lightning. Then, his gaze drifted past Sophie's shaking shoulder and locked directly onto me. I was standing under the warm awning of the bistro, wearing a cream trench coat, my arm resting comfortably near Caleb's side. I looked at him, not with anger, not with malicious glee, but with the quiet, detached curiosity one might reserve for a stranger creating a disturbance in public. Ryan's eyes widened in sheer, agonizing humiliation. He took a desperate step toward me, completely ignoring Sophie, who was still weeping behind him. Emma, he rasped, his voice carrying across the quiet space. I didn't answer. I didn't offer him the dignity of a glance. I turned around, pulled my coat closer against the night breeze, and walked down the avenue with Caleb toward the station, leaving the screaming pair behind in the dark. The morning of my flight to Paris was crisp, cold, and brilliant with golden sunlight. My mother drove me to the international terminal. We spent 2 peaceful hours sitting in the executive lounge, drinking hot lattes and discussing her plans to visit me during the spring holiday. There were no dramatic tears, only a deep, maternal pride shining in her eyes as she watched me handle my luggage, passport, and boarding passes with effortless independence. You are going to soar over there, Emma, she said, hugging me tightly near the security gate. Don't ever look back. I won't, Mom, I promised, kissing her cheek. I'm already forward. I picked up my carry-on bag and stepped into the security queue. Just as I handed my passport to the agent, a wild, chaotic uproar shattered the peace of the departure hall. Emma! Emma! I turned my head. Ryan was sprinting through the terminal like a madman. He had crashed past the outer security barrier, screaming my name at the top of his lungs. Airport security officers were pursuing him closely, shouting for him to halt. He looked completely unhinged, his clothes rumpled, his hair wildly unkempt, his eyes wide with raw, desperate panic. He was clutching a crumpled piece of paper. In his hand, a ticket to London departing from another terminal 3 hours later. Emma, don't get on that plane, he roared, his voice echoing off the high glass arches of the terminal. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I don't want London. I don't give a damn about the UK. I'll buy a ticket to Paris right now. I'll sit on the floor of the aisle. Just wait for me. Travelers throughout the terminal stopped in their tracks, watching the spectacle in shock. 2 heavy-set airport guards tackled Ryan to the polished floor 10 yards from the security checkpoint. He hit the ground hard, but he kept his head lifted, staring at me through the metal dividers, tears streaming unrestrained down his face. Emma, please. He sobbed, his wrists pinned behind him. 12 years. You can't just erase 12 years. I love you. I've always loved you. I stood at the security desk, holding my passport. I looked at the boy who had consumed my entire youth. I looked at his broken, weeping figure on the ground, making a public circus of his own destruction. And in that final, crystal-clear second, I felt nothing. No anger. No sadness. No lingering ache. Only a profound, breathtaking sense of freedom. Is everything all right, ma'am? The security officer asked, looking at me with concern. Do you know this man? I took my passport back from the officer, gave him a polite, warm smile and adjusted my bag over my shoulder. No, I said softly, turning my back on the noise. I don't know him at all. I walked through the gate, stepped onto the jet bridge and walked straight toward the plane that would take me to Paris. The sky outside the window was wide, clear and endless. And for the first time in my life, I was flying into it entirely on my own. Paris in the autumn was everything I had dreamed of, yet entirely different from what I had imagined. When I was 16, I thought Paris would be romantic because Ryan would be holding my hand along the Seine. I thought the Eiffel Tower would be magical because we would take photos together under its lights. Now sitting in a small, sunlit cafe on Rue Saint-Denis with a notebook open in front of me and a cup of rich espresso, I realized the city wasn't magical because of who was beside me. It was magical because I was finally present to experience it for myself. My apartment was a cozy second-floor studio with tall French windows, exposed wooden beams, and a tiny iron balcony overflowing with red geraniums. My classes at the Sorbonne were rigorous, demanding, and utterly exhilarating. Within 3 months, my French grew fluid and natural. I made friends from Tokyo, Madrid, Berlin, and Montreal. We stayed up late in student apartments, discussing philosophy, economics, and art, drinking cheap wine and eating fresh baguettes. Caleb Foster lived 3 blocks away from my building. Our relationship developed with a quiet, refreshing ease. There were no dramatic declarations, no game playing, no desperate demands for validation. He was simply a solid, brilliant presence in my life, a friend who brought me warm croissants when I was studying for finals, who walked with me through the Luxembourg Gardens on Sunday mornings, and who respected my space and my ambition above all else. In December, as the first snowfall fell over the Notre Dame Cathedral, Caleb and I stood on the Pont d'Arts, watching the river reflect the city lights. You look happy, Emma, Caleb said, pulling his scarf tighter against the cold wind. I am, I smiled, looking out at the glittering water. I feel like I'm finally living my own life instead of acting as a supporting character in someone else's script. You were never a supporting character, Caleb said quietly, looking at me with genuine warmth. Some people are just too blind to see the lead actress standing right in front of them. I laughed, the sound light and clear, dissolving into the crisp winter air. My phone chimed in my coat pocket. I pulled it out. It was an email notification from my old high school's alumni network, distributing the quarterly newsletter detailing where the graduating class had landed. I glanced down the digital page until my eyes hit the UK section. Ryan Hawthorne, King's College London, academic probation/leave of absence. Underneath, a small note from an alumni representative mentioned that Ryan had dropped out of his second semester classes due to personal difficulties and had returned to his hometown and state, living in his parents' basement, unemployed. Sophie Quinn had transferred to a local community college in London after their messy breakup swept through the university's social circles. I stared at the text for 2 seconds. Then I closed the email, slid the phone back into my coat pocket and took Caleb's hand as we walked toward the illuminated streets of the Marais. 18 months later, I returned to my hometown for the first time during the summer break before starting my master's program at the Sorbonne. My mother's house was warm, familiar, and filled with the scent of fresh lavender. I had grown taller in posture, my style refined by 2 years in Europe, wearing an elegant navy silk shirt, tailored trousers, and my hair styled in soft, confident waves. On my third afternoon back, my mother asked me to pick up some fresh pastry supplies from the bakery downtown. The summer sun was hot, baking the asphalt of the quiet suburban streets. As I stepped out of the bakery holding a brown paper bag, a rusted, dusty sedan pulled up to the curb near the crosswalk. The driver's door opened, and a man stepped out. It was Ryan. He was unrecognizable. He had gained weight, his posture slumped and defeated. He was wearing a faded, stained t-shirt and wrinkled shorts. His face was pale, his eyes dull and hollow, surrounded by dark, permanent rings of exhaustion. He looked like a man in his 30s who had given up on life. He turned to grab something from his back seat, and his eyes locked onto me. Ryan froze. The coffee cup in his hand slipped, hitting the pavement and splashing black liquid across his sneakers. He stared at me as if he were looking at an apparition. "Emma?" he rasped, his voice trembling, sounding fragile and hollow. I stood under the shade of the bakery awning, holding my bag of pastries. I didn't run. I didn't hide. I didn't feel a single spike of anxiety or resentment. I simply stood there, looking at him with the calm, polite detachment I would offer to a stranger on a bus. "Hello, Ryan," I said quietly. Ryan took 3 shaky steps forward, his hands trembling at his sides. His eyes swept over my silk shirt, my confident posture, the quiet, radiant independence that practically glowed around me. You look incredible," he whispered, tears suddenly welling in his hollow eyes. "You look so happy." "I am very happy," I replied smoothly. "How are you?" The simple, polite question seemed to shatter him. Ryan dropped his head into his hands, his shoulders shaking as ragged sobs tore through his chest right there on the sunny sidewalk. "I ruined everything, Emma," he wept, his voice choked with raw, agonizing regret. "I threw away my life. I threw away 12 years. I left London. I couldn't sleep. Every night I closed my eyes, all I saw was you walking away. At the airport." He looked up at me, his face ruined by tears, reaching out a trembling, desperate hand. "Please, Emma. I'm back now. I'm staying here. Can we just try talking again? Just as friends? Just one cup of coffee?" I looked at his outstretched hand. I remembered the boy who had bragged in the group chat that I couldn't function without him. I remembered the boy who had shoved me aside to comfort Sophie. I remembered the boy who had tried to force me to unlock my phone at midnight. And then I looked at the woman I had become. A woman who had built her own dreams, forged her own path, and found her own happiness under the skies of Paris. "No, Ryan," I said, my voice gentle, firm, and absolute. "We can't." "Why?" he sobbed, his voice breaking into a desperate plea. "Why can't you give me one second chance?" "Because the Emma who spent 12 years holding your hand doesn't exist anymore," I said softly. "You destroyed her 2 years ago. And the woman standing here today doesn't need you at all." I offered him a final, polite nod. "Goodbye, Ryan. I hope you find your peace." I turned on my heel and walked down the sunlit sidewalk toward my mother's car, stepping gracefully into the warm breeze. Behind me, Ryan fell to his knees on the hot pavement, weeping into the quiet summer air, completely alone with the consequences of his own choices. I didn't look back. I opened my car door, sat inside, set my pastries on the passenger seat, and drove forward toward a future that had always been entirely, gloriously my own.